Welcome to Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success podcast, providing business owners, leaders, and entrepreneurs with the 3 INs: insights, inspirations, and intentional actions. Delivered through monologues and dialogues, we address topics like leadership, productivity, time management, work-life balance, and challenges like stress, conflict, mental health, and much more. Please do not hold back from suggesting specific topics and guests you would like on this podcast. Greetings and welcome to this episode of Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success. If you're watching and if you watch any of the previous episodes, you will see there's a little bit of a different setup today, and that's because I have a very special guest on for you today. And also, I'm in the sanctuary that my wife and I built, which is here for people to come on personal private retreats, whether individually or as couples. So sitting here in the reddish sofa, very, very comfortable. So without further ado, let me introduce you to this special guest. Special for a number of reasons. One, when I look back, all the guests I've had on have been males, not because I particularly wanted males, but it's just the way it's turned out. So it's a privilege for me this week to have a female, but not only any female. It is my wife. So I'm gonna ask her to come and join me here on the sofa and get her to introduce herself to you. Welcome, darling.
Thank you.
Tell the audience a bit about you.
A little bit about me.
I might learn something here.
You might.
I might.
So hi, I'm Kathy, and yes, as Mikhail has said, I am his wife of around 30 years or 30 years plus now. So we have done well. We are still together, and we are in what I'd say a thriving relationship. So I feel very, very blessed to be in that. Apart from being a wife, I'm a mother of 3 beautiful children who are young adults now, and I'm incredibly proud of who they are as they stand in the world today. I'm a teacher. I am a horse lover from way back. I use horses for supporting youth, and at the moment I'm back being a student. So I am studying to become a coach alongside my beautiful husband to be a sex, love and relationships coach. Lucky him, eh?
Definitely lucky me. No doubt about that. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. So I'm not going to do anything different here just because it's my wife Kathy here today. I'm going to ask the exact same questions that I've done for all the guests. And it's about mental fitness. And we always start with a story about things that didn't go too well. Like it might be a failure, things collapsed, or things just turned to custard. Because at the time there was a lack of mental fitness. So we weren't able to meet the challenges in a positive way and move through and come out of it in a really positive way. So with that, I know you, of course, 30 plus years, so I know that there are a few stories here, but I'm going to leave it to you to pick the one that.
Yes. Yeah, so probably my biggest failure, which I carry very, very heavily, was when the children were young. I needed to start being part of bringing in an income. I was a teacher. I didn't want to head back into the education system. I had property investing in my blood from my family, and so that seemed to be something that I could do while still being a mother and potentially make good money from it. And I was very lucky in the time that I stepped into it. It was pretty easy, and it was going incredibly well, and everything felt like this is perfect. But unfortunately, I was just riding the high wave, and I didn't realize that. I had done study, but obviously not enough, and not prepared for when things go up, they also come down. So the global finance GF, whatever it's called, in 2008. I was caught in it. Incredibly, I had properties that I couldn't sell, that I owed too much money. And in 2011, I crashed us all into bankruptcy. So because of that, we lost everything. And it was a pretty devastating time. So that was the devastation time. But I think on reflection, what followed was more around the mental fitness or the lack of mental fitness because I basically buried my head and just gave up on all the dreams and went into survival mode. Got a low paying job, just enough to get by. We I mean, the gift was that as a relationship, Mikhail stood by me and we stood by each other through that time.
Mhm.
And so that was a major gift. But when I look back now, really, I probably buried my head for probably a good 10 years of just feeling very sorry for myself, very embarrassed, really, carrying a lot of guilt, a lot of pain, and had no way out. And apart from surviving, I went into survival mode for sure.
Mhm. Mhm. So yeah, that's the lack of mental fitness. And again, I just want to make it clear the mental fitness is not black and white. It's of course on a scale. And it's not that Kathy didn't have any mental fitness at the time. It was still bringing up our beautiful children and being able to be there for other people and for work and so on. But in this particular situation, um, there was a lack of mental fitness causing that pain for her. If she had had even less mental fitness, it could have completely broken her, which for some people it completely breaks them, and that didn't happen. But it wasn't that she was singing and dancing through it and say, "This is just a gift, and we're going to learn from this gift, and let's get right back on the
Mm,
horse." And no, it's got to be good. You know, she wasn't there either. There was somewhere
mm,
in between.
mm.
So we can either go to another, like to the next, another story, like a positive story, or have you got another, maybe a short little one or something else? It could be like way before I met you or later, where there also was there was a challenge that you didn't quite meet because the mental fitness wasn't quite there to meet it.
Um, I guess yes and no. I guess in my late teens, early 20s, emotionally I got myself in a great big hole. Huge lack of self-esteem, managed that by binge eating, putting on
Mm,
weight, as many of us partying, drinking, taking big risks that I shouldn't have been doing. And so I had nothing to draw on in that time to
mm,
support me to get out of that cycle, except there was something finally that clicked in that was within me enough to say, I've got to get out. And that's actually when I headed off out into the world on my own to travel to one way to leave everything behind that was behind me, but of course I realized it all came with me. So in that journey of realizing
mm,
that, then began probably the journey of learning mental fitness and yeah, and the whole personal growth journey
mm,
that started on that.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
And again, as we've talked about in most of these podcasts with guests, is that some of the biggest growth and learning we get comes out of hardship. It comes out of hitting that rock bottom or burnout or whatever it is, and then like, okay, I need to do something different here for you. For me, I also went traveling. And actually, that's where we met in the middle of Africa, some 35 or so years
Yes.
ago, and dated on three different continents, five different countries, moved in together in Paris, and that's where we started our relationship. And here we are a few decades later. But I digress. So let's
Yes.
talk about, I get a story from Kathy about success or things that you have achieved that you achieved not because it was easy or comfortable, but because you had the mental fitness to do what needed to be done despite the challenges of it?
Um, so thinking about that, I think the thing that jumped out at me was actually childbirth, having three amazing children in a natural environment, without any interference at home, and just knowing that my body could do it.
Mm,
By then, I had done a reasonable amount of personal growth. I'd done firewalking, which gave me a huge insight on the potential of the body and the mind, what they could do when they were working together. I'd also spent a year alongside Mikhail being caretakers at a Buddhist retreat center. So a lot of meditation had come into my life and a lot of learning through that. And again, really experiencing the power of my body and my mind. And so taking that into childbirth, very, very clear that I was very fit. I ate very well. I knew I had the ability to do this, and I did. And I just feel like it was such a portal and such an experience of really empowering myself as a woman through that. Like, yeah,
mm,
absolutely.
mm,
And yeah, I feel like probably as small as sort of in some ways everybody does it, but for me, I really feel that bringing these three beautiful children into the world successfully is one of my greatest gifts.
mm. And what I'm hearing in that, and since I was around through all of that as well, um, when we want to do something that is not mainstream, that takes mental fitness. And like home birth with candles and it's just not mainstream, at least not here in New Zealand. Um, so that takes courage, like whatever it is that you might be looking to do in your life. Um, when we follow mainstream, it's easy and it doesn't take a lot of courage. But to do something different to that, it takes courage because one, we may feel, okay, you might have felt that, oh, this is not kind of what everybody else is doing. But it could also be that people around us are not agreeing with that or thinking we should be doing it in a different way. So congratulations on that. I think it's time for a sip of
Oh,
a sip of wine for
sure.
me, I think. This is our podcast, man.
Mm.
We can do whatever we like. So cheers, everyone.
And I think a part of that though is also just really trusting that knowing, like there was no question for me. And so whatever you're wanting to do is that if we are in touch enough with our bodies, there's enough alignment between our bodies and mind, and then we can really feel into that and trust that, then we're on a winner. And there was absolutely no doubt for me
Mm,
that
mm,
that was where I was going. And I absolutely acknowledge that for some people have equally that clarity and things don't go their way. So I totally want to acknowledge that as well. So I guess there are some whatever forces at work there, but I think a huge part of it for me was that mindset and that clarity and that knowing and trusting my body.
mm. And the word trust has come up quite a few times in Kathy's sharing today. And again, trust requires mental fitness. Like we need to have a reasonably high level of mental fitness to be able to trust in challenging situations, whether that's jumping off a bridge with a bungee cord hanging off or going into to
Mm.
childbirth. Like we need to trust when we step out on the edge, and mental fitness is required for that. Um, I think we've got time for another story, and I'm wondering whether you want to share, like from my observation of you this year. So we are now in November, which means that you've been in your 1 year training course you mentioned earlier for 10 plus months. And I have seen along the way That's of course is challenging. It will have to be in order for it to be valuable. Um, and there's been a bit of moaning and groaning along the way, and a bit
Really?
of tiredness along the way, and all of that sort of stuff that comes with that. But you have still stuck to it. You haven't given up anywhere along the way, even though I've heard sometimes you're like, oh God, it's enough. No, I don't want to. No, I can't do anymore right now. And yet, you're still doing. You're still in the course. You are keeping up with it. That's to me mental fitness. Can you talk a bit about that journey this year?
Yeah, it has been a huge journey. It wasn't really my intention to jump into something quite so big and really probably didn't understand the hugeness of it, both as far as the time commitment, but also yeah, the emotional roller coaster of this doing this journeying and traveling into, first of all, understanding my own sexuality and my own learning more about my
Mm,
own body and the way it works and coming into that more, but then also then the whole journey of supporting other people in that learning. So absolutely there has been a lot of needing to just to dig in. But again, I feel like there was that absolute clarity once I'd made that decision and decided that that was what I was doing, that it was just, and still is, it's not over by any means.
mm,
It's almost getting harder now, is that it's just like I've got to dig in and I've got to keep at it and having that, yeah, clarity and commitment and yeah, also again, I guess trust. The thing for me has come very clearly this year is that just keep taking the steps, one step at a time. And as soon as I get into my head and into the worry mode and getting out of my body, yeah, for me, my body is very much my vehicle of learning and being on the ground and keeping me focused. So by staying in my body and just keeping taking those steps, then I am able to carry on. As soon as I get into that worry mode or that overwhelm mode or yeah, too much thinking mode, that's when I start to run into trouble and want to just go and hide under a pillow, under a sheet, under a bed, whatever, and just done.
mhm.
Yeah.
And it's okay too, isn't it, to go, okay, I'm having a break
Oh,
and just until I need to recharge and then come back to it,
no, totally. Yeah.
fine as well.
Yes, absolutely.
The giving up, well, sometimes that is fine too. Um, but most times when we get into something like you got into there, you want to stick through it and not just for the learning and all of that, but also to get that certification to go out into the world and bring this to other people, whether individuals or
Yeah.
couples.
And I think part of that is also then knowing how, having those tools to support me in those times when I want to just to step out or step away. And
Mm,
A, like you're saying, acknowledging sometimes that's okay. And sometimes I have done that. It's just like down tools, I need to take a break. But then knowing what feed me in that. So, for example, walking on the beach, I do that regularly. And I know that is a filler for me. That just feeds me and so that is a massive tool that I've learned that I know that is supportive of me when I get into that
mm,
overwhelm. Going and hanging out with my horse, again, it's a time when I'm just focused on something else. It gives me that break, that mental break,
mm,
and the physical break as well. So doing yeah basic things, cooking and shopping and those things where your brain can have that chance to just unload for a
mm,
moment.
mm.
So, yeah.
And practice, like, so that's part of the practice, isn't it, of growing the mental fitness, but also having the mental fitness to be able to take time out for those things. Because what I'm experiencing a lot with my clients and other people I talk to is that you go, oh yeah, 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 I should get to the gym, or yeah, I should get out in nature for some walk, or no, I should just chill out a little bit more now and then. But it's a should on everything.
Hmm.
And doing it because, oh, I haven't got time for it. There's too many things to do and that. And I know Kathy, she can very easily fill up her day with things to do. That's not a problem for her. Um, So again, it takes actually mental fitness to stand up for what do I need to do to look after myself and to recharge myself when the battery goes low. And that takes mental fitness, doesn't it? To do
Yeah.
that, particularly if other people around us just go, 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 and then crash.
Yeah, and I think those it's also yeah, when you have enough experiences that's really in you that you know the benefit of doing it outweighs or overrides the shoulds.
Hmm.
So for me, it's
Hmm.
it's it's not a should because I know that the benefit of it is yeah, way beyond that. It's the same as starting going to the gym this year. Has been something new for me, and it's been a goal. I'm off to do a big walk with my daughter in a couple of weeks, and so I didn't want to be the lagging mother behind the mountain on the bottom of the mountain. So really decided to take that initiative and get fitter. Um, which was the initial reason. But actually, again, what I've come to is that going and doing that fills me up. That's a positive. And so sometimes I'm getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning because that's the only time I've got to do it, and it's hard. But again, now I've had enough experiences of doing that, I know at the end I'm going to feel that much better. So
Hmm.
it's I don't think it's anything new, but it needs to be in your body enough that you need to go through that times enough so that
Hmm.
it's in your body, and then that makes it much easier
Hmm.
by living it.
Yeah. And as you said, it's hard, but I know it's valuable.
Yeah.
So again, we're back to mental fitness. It requires mental fitness to be able to do that and not just go, oh, it's hard. Yeah, oh, no, not today. Oh, no, I'm too tired. Oh, I'll do it next week or that kind of stuff. So that's more my thing. We can talk about that at another time. And I'm at the gym too, just saying. I haven't been going to the gym for 30 years, and I promised myself I'll never go to a freaking gym again because I think it's ridiculous. I'll go to the gym on a regular basis, and I'm actually enjoying it. So, but that's a story for another day. It's not about me. This is
All
this is
right.
about this is about my guest today. I just happen to know this guest quite well. So, any other stories around mental fitness or things before we go to the last couple of items on the list for today?
I yeah, I was gifted with ponies in my life from a very early age, and then went through to horses and was very competitive in my early years. And
Mm,
um, but because I was in this state of low self-esteem and then getting into all these issues of emotional eating and everything, then my horses was very much a roller coaster experience. They very much mirrored what was happening for me emotionally. So I would be yeah, it was a real up and down. Going and wanting to have a nice ride, but knowing that I was feeling like fairly crappy myself. And then voila, the horses, that's the beautiful beauty of horses. They really mirror where you're at. And so then I'd ended up having a crappy time. So it was an incredible roller coaster of a time. As much as I love them and it fed me on so many levels, it certainly emotionally was a really difficult time, particularly in these late teens, early 20 times. And then after a break of traveling and then having children and coming back into horses again, I noticed actually that I was actually a better rider and I was better with horses
mm,
because my own state of
mm,
being, my own mental fitness was in a far better state. And so therefore it was much less of a roller coaster with the horses. They again mirrored more where I was at, which was much smoother and much more easygoing and much less driven and more able to accept and allow things to be both and much more aware. That I guess that was the big thing,
mm,
having more
mm,
awareness, which is a big part of the mental fitness too, then allowed for a much smoother ride.
mm,
So I think definitely that was an example, I guess, of the
mm,
transition that had
mm,
taken place
mhm.
through doing these many
Yeah.
different things.
So that when the mental fitness had gone up for you, you were meeting the horses in a completely different
Yeah,
different way.
yes. Yeah.
And I guess again, it's things that I see in you that you're really excited about is taking children. You're doing a children's horse programs where you take a group of children to horses on a weekly basis for some weeks, and isn't that also about helping them to becoming more mentally fit? Or do you see that?
I guess, yeah, it's bringing them into situations that a situation that they is very, very novel for these children, often from very difficult backgrounds,
Mm,
with little sort of a lot not happening for them, struggling in many different ways, and so to come into contact with horses again who have that ability to mirror. And then the gifts that they can learn from that is absolutely, yes, trying to
mm,
support these students to look at
mm,
things in a different way, to give them those tools, even if it's just dropping a little pebble in the lake, I suppose. Something, hoping something that
mm,
will land so that when they become in a situation, a difficult situation, then their mental fitness, their ability to think slightly differently may be there for them.
mm,
That's the
mm,
hope anyway.
mm. Yeah, and good on you. Like I get to hear these stories when she comes home from
Yeah.
those, and there's stories both ways. That are like, oh, it didn't go so well today, but mostly it's like, oh, it was so exciting because this child has never done this, but they suddenly did this, and what a gift that you're giving to them. And I remember, I think it was last year, we even did a full day couples workshop with couples and horses. And I'm not a horse person, trust me. I don't want to be anywhere near those things. They're way, way too big. Um, but and that required mental fitness for me as a
Mhm.
facilitator to step in there and meet those horses along with the participants that came along. So that was
Yeah.
that we can talk about that another day. So um, then the next like thing I would love for you to share with our audience is uh, some tools, like tools, or how did you grow and learn your mental fitness along the way that maybe can inspire people to look at ways that they can do it, whether it's a book or a ritual you have or a course you did or absolutely anything.
I just think there was a number of, I've done many, many things, and I think, but I think the key has always been is that if it is something that is putting me out of my comfort zone, then there will be growth in it. So, you know, heading off traveling on my own around the world, 3.5 years probably all up, stepping out of my safety net of my family and my environment and my work, that was a huge, that was the beginning really. And well, actually before that, not long before that, was doing Outward Bound. So that was again, that
Mm,
was actually a real turning point for me. That was the first time I'd really stepped into an environment that was completely different, and yeah, I got so much from that, so much learning, so much insight. Um, so along the way, there have been many different situations where I have done these things that have been very edgy, and but in that there's always been growth. So traveling, meeting this man who then came back to New Zealand, and when I'd met him, in fact, he talked about firewalking, and it was like, what the hell, firewalking? And so when we came back to New Zealand together, then he set up and did firewalking courses. And so I participated and supported him in those a number of times. And absolutely, that is hugely transformational in every
mm,
way. And again, probably was one of those empowering things that really, again, as I think I spoke earlier of that shift in that mind and body that's available to us. Yeah, and on and on and on. So I think
mm,
it is, I think whatever it is that you're drawn to, it is that taking that step into the unknown and yeah, however edgy it is, that is when the growth is going to be. So yeah, for me, and it's just keep doing it too, I think. I mean,
mm,
I stepping into this, sex, love, and relationship coaching at 60, becoming a learning to do that, like that is has was massive. And there's an 82-year-old on my course doing it. I mean, how amazing is that? So made me feel quite young. So, there is this is a never-ending journey, and
mm,
I just see that it just will continue to keep growing because like your body fitness, I see that mental fitness is something too. If you don't keep doing it, then it's going to drop back, and you can fall into that comfort and that safety. And absolutely, I think at times that is really important, that you have those rest times that allows for that integration. And um,
mm.
but it's also having that awareness that then there is that time that you can also become stuck. And, I think when you start to notice those things that used to be easy starting to get a little bit tricky, then it's time to go and do something more. That's what I'd say.
Oh, that's some good advice there, and some hopefully some inspiration for you, as our listener, to look at what is there for you. Like, what can you do to take those steps, whether it's going for those walks or getting up at 5 o'clock to go to the gym, even though it feels a bit hard. What is that for you? So thank you for sharing those things. And as per usual, I always finish these podcasts with asking my guest about a story of transformation. Again, because I love change, nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't beat transformation for me. So in your whatever transformation is to you, can you give us a story or two of transformation? And you, other than meeting me, of course, it's transformation,
Yes.
but.
Yeah. Um, well, I mean, I think I've already mentioned the fire walking. That's a really obvious transformation for me, and the outward bound and those things. But another one that really sits for me was, yeah, through Macau, I guess I got onto the Tony Robbins role and did his courses, did his first course, and then went on and did his mastery courses. This was a number of years ago, so it was in person. And I mean, the whole course is everything about that was transformational. But there was one particular process that he took me through that, well, not took me through, well, took us through, however many thousand of us that were there. Um, I had, I'm not sure how many years earlier, not probably only 2 or 3 years earlier, had lost my younger brother to suicide. And
Mhm.
so when that anniversary date came for those years that had been, that was always an incredibly painful time for me, building up
Mhm.
to it and on the day. And it was massive. And in this process that Tony Robbins took us through, this shift happened within me. And um, I think because of the way he was working, it was at a very deep level. So it was really down into the subconscious that was the shift was taking place. And um, what I found was that year when the anniversary date came round, then I could move through that in a very, very different way. It was far more easeful, far more peace around it. And it was
Mhm.
incredibly, yeah. So that was transformational, and has continued to be so in that
Mhm.
way. So that was definitely the experience, a very, very
Mhm.
hands-on experience of transformation.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, and for mentioning about the suicide as well. So, um, and yes, I know I did Tony Robbins too, and that made a massive difference to my life, for sure. So, with that, any last things you would like to share with our audience?
Um, hmm. I think yeah, I just think that just that mental fitness, just putting that value on that equally to the physical fitness and the physical well-being is incredibly important, but without the other, there's got to be both. There has to be
Mm,
both. And And it's having that awareness of what needs to do and having that trust and knowing that what comes up will be there to step into whatever's needed. If you are open enough and looking, then it will be there, and then it is taking those steps into it and taking that leap into it, I should say. So keep taking the steps. Don't fall asleep.
And if you're in a relationship, particularly a long-term one, you're going to need mental fitness. So, we have experienced that. I've experienced that. You've experienced that. So thank you for that encouragement to keep working on the mental fitness, just like physical fitness. So with that, I'm going to say thank you to you for joining me on the sofa today in our sanctuary.
Yes.
And also letting people know that we're starting opening up. Now, you've had your first intimacy client in here, and I've had my first client in here for like a 4-day retreat. So we're not completely finished building it, but it is in a state where actually we can have people here. So thank you to you.
You're welcome.
And
thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. And thank you to you for tuning in to this episode of Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success. If you have stories of how mental fitness has benefited you that you are happy to share, go to my website, mikael.nz, click on podcast and fill in the guest application form. If you want direct support from me utilizing my 40 years of mental fitness learning and practice, email me at coach@mikael.nz or message me on LinkedIn. Any feedback, review, share, follow, like, or any other good stuff is, of course, appreciated. Thank you for listening to Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success podcast. I'm your host, Mikael Nelson.